Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I'm Will Shen. I've been a homeowner in Alexandria for more than 10 years, and I have a master's degree in urban planning. I'm also on the board of the Coalition for a Livable Alexandria, or CLA. Excuse me. CLA was founded this summer to give a voice to all Alexandrians in planning and zoning decisions. CLA opposes zoning for housing as it currently stands. The city claims that zoning for housing will make housing more accessible, affordable, and available. It will do none of these things, but it will make the city much more crowded and less livable for residents. Zoning for housing will not build much affordable housing, but it will set off a scramble by developers to buy properties to tear down and rebuild, which will run up the housing cost for everyone overall. Zoning for housing will not do anything about Alexandria's past history of housing discrimination, as has been claimed, nor will it help working-class residents live in the city. On the contrary, it will lead to gentrification and push many longtime residents out of their homes. The city has yet to explain how this plan can actually fix any of the housing problems that it uses as justifications. As an example of how detached from reality this proposal is, zoning for housing will drastically increase density in areas near metro stations in several ways. It is simply assumed that there is a desperate need for thousands more expensive, metro-accessible apartments with no parking to promote car-free living. Yet metro ridership has dropped in half since 2020 and doesn't appear to be coming back. WMATA is running a $750 million annual deficit that it now wants local governments to pay for. There is absolutely no identified need for more luxury apartments next to metro stations. We already have thousands of this type of unit and are currently building thousands more. What Alexandria actually needs are more relatively affordable opportunities for home ownership, especially for young families. Instead, zoning for housing promotes building 1- and 2-bedroom apartments rather than townhouses, smaller detached houses, or even really condos or even larger apartments. It will incentivize developers to tear down many smaller, older, more affordable homes. In the next few years, zoning for housing will destroy Alexandria's stock of starter homes. The Coalition for a Livable Alexandria asks you for 3 things. First, we ask you to please extend the timeline and not vote on the 28th. Residents have really only had about a month to take in this proposal, and there's no need for this rushed process. Second, we ask you to please break this plan into its constituent parts so that we can have productive discussions about specific details in the proposals. Third, and most of all, we ask you to please listen to residents and act in their best interests. Thank you.
Ms. Shen, can I ask you a question? Sure. So I think you did a really good job of explaining what you don't believe this proposal does as it relates to gentrification. You suggested that adding housing supply would cause more gentrification and not moderate prices. In your studies in urban planning, can you suggest what would be solutions to some of these challenges that you said this proposal doesn't do anything to address?
To affordability?
Yeah, sure.
There's relatively
gentrification, all the things that you said.
Gentrification could be improved by not making sweeping changes that will open previously undevelopable properties up for development.
I'm asking what things you do support.
As CLA supports affordable housing, but we don't support a proposal that is going to build almost no affordable housing and instead build thousands of luxury units. We don't understand what the connection is between affordable housing and this proposal. There really doesn't seem to be much of one other than the 1/3 bonus units that are allowed in the
I understand what you don't support. I'm asking what you do. And you said you talked about your studies in academia. I'm just curious what
do you mean in terms of what I support?
Yeah, what you said.
What do I support?
You identified a number
the
of
city's
things
3
that this
goals
proposal does not do. What do you believe that we should be doing to address some of these concerns?
I think the first thing you should do is to step back and talk to the residents about what the problems are and engage them in what the solution should be, rather than coming with a preformed leave it or take it proposal, which we've been given a month ago.
I'm just surprised. I mean, you mentioned your qualifications in urban planning, and so I mean, obviously urban planning, a major part of that is how cities develop and grow over time. I'm just curious what suggestions you might have for us.
You can build affordable housing, but you can't build it you can't just say that you're going to build affordable housing and then pass.
I understand what you oppose.
I'm not sure what you're asking exactly.
I'm asking for a proposal, a suggestion.
I don't have
idea.
a proposal for you. You've given the citizens of Alexandria this proposal to consider and given us very little time to digest it. So I don't have time to come up with pie in the sky proposals for what might happen, but you won't vote for.
Okay, all right,
so
thank you.
We oppose this proposal.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Next, Mr. Aguirre, and then Mr. McPike.
So just real fast for some context, you know, WMATA was brought up and so was ridership, that it was cut in half in 2020. I want to remind everyone why that happened. This isn't something that just happened for no reason. Ridership was actually on the uptick for WMATA. What happened was the pandemic that destroyed ridership on WMATA. We haven't been able to get back to it. Secondly, what was brought up in terms of the fiscal cliff for WMATA, that is decades in the making. Decades in the making. So just context here for people, because I don't want people to think that this is somehow related or connected.
Thank you, Councilman Aguirre. Councilman McPike, and then Councilman Chapman.
Yeah, I just have a couple quick questions for staff. The zoning for housing proposals are projected to create 2,838 housing units over the next 10 years. Of them, 800 in CDDs. And this proposal is that our CDD zones should be subject effectively to 7-700, which would require a density bonus of 1/3 being affordable.
Right.
So there'd be a significant number of affordable units potentially in that sort of zoning.
That's right.
The proposals include project 1,800 new units in the RMF zone. And the RMF zone, by its very nature, requires the creation of affordable units, does it not?
That's correct.
And the total is 2,800, so that's 2,600 of the 2,800 units are using tools that, by their very nature, will necessitate the creation of affordable units.
That's right.
Thank you.
Councilman Chapman.
I just wanted to address kind of give some context and some background around kind of speaking to residents about affordable housing. I think the city, I've been on council since 2012, and even before then, that has been a regular commentary from the city and city staff and elected leadership before I was on council, while I was running for council, and since I've been on council over the past decade. We regularly talk to residents in different communities and neighborhoods about affordability of housing, not just affordable housing, but affordability of housing, and have continued to take steps as we continue to talk to residents and communities about the affordability of housing. We've done that through outreach through our housing master plan. We've done that through outreach in conversations on this dais and in the public about set-aside funding, whether it's a penny tax or other funds that we've tried to set aside. We've involved the business community in that conversation, especially as it relates to meals tax. In talking about the RMF zone, as we had the creation of that was a conversation with different neighborhoods in the community that would directly affect, and that's been part of those conversations. Every time we have conversations about gap financing for different projects, whether they're nonprofit developer projects that we do, whether it's projects for ARHA in particular, we have conversations about why we're doing this. We try to explain why we're doing these levels of funding, committing local dollars to these conversations. I know some of these conversations about affordability of housing have extended past city lines. I know a number of community members have mentioned the fact that the Council of Governments has had a conversation about housing supply in the region. And so I guess I disagree with the notion that we don't communicate about the affordability of housing. I know that has been I know a number of people were talking about elections and conversations that happened during elections. Affordability of housing has been a main conversation for a number of different cycles and elections. I don't know if folks disagree on that, but this general notion that we don't communicate with the public about affordability of housing, I think I would tend to disagree with.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chapman. Okay, we're going to steer back to 5 words.
Yeah, just because of what Mr. Chapman said, everything that I've been campaigning on has been housing opportunities.
All right, thank you, Councilman Aguirre. Okay.